Hey everybody, this is Valerius, the Red Dragon, and thought I'd do something a little bit different today. I decided that today I'm going to make supper, and I'll bring you guys along with me, partly because I'm trying something I haven't really tried before. One of my specialties cooking is a little something called adobo. Well, usually I make it with chicken. This time around, though, I'm going to try it with steak. So it'll be a little bit different from what I'm used to, and eventually I'll probably do a tutorial on how to make a really good chicken adobo. Excuse me. But as we're doing steak adobo, this should be exciting. Alright, I'm going to give you the little preview what you need. First off, going to have some rice, some black pepper. You have to have a little sesame oil there, some vinegar, soy sauce, very important. For beef adobo, you're going to have beef stock, a half of a white onion, and somewhere around a pound of steak of some sort. I decided to go with this right here, the sirloin tip steak. Partly because it was really pretty well priced. You need a good sharp knife to do all your cutting with, and you need a wok, and having a rice cooker really doesn't hurt either. So that's what you need for this. Now I'm going to show you how to prep it. Alright, the first step you're going to want to do is you're going to take your onion, your half onion here, going to cut it in half. You're going to do julienne cut onion, which, simply put, as I sort of reassemble what fell apart of the onion here, deal with more of that later. Going to cut it in half like so. Then, I'm going to note which way the lines of the onion go. You can do it either that way or that way, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to go this way, and just going to slice them thinly, like so. Just going to do that for the entirety of your half an onion. Being careful not to cut off your fingers, because that would be really bad. You can get down to the end, you turn it to the side like so. Boom, 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 boom. All of you out there who are professional chefs, and who are probably lamenting my horrible knife work, forgive me. I am a fursuiter, I am not a chef. You break it up into slices as you put it into your little holding bowl here. So there you have your half an onion, beautifully cut, julienne style. Alright, your next step is going to be to cut the meat, which I've got about 3/4 of a pound of sirloin here. So you're going to cube it, or do your best approximation thereof. Basically, cut it into small enough chunks that they'll be really easy to eat, and they will cook through nice and quickly. Yeah, looking about that size, give or take. I'm going to put these right into the wok here. There we go. There you have your cubed steak. Alright, now we're over here by the stove. Our next step, though, is going to be getting the rice ready to start. So, get your rice here. Now, for one person, which I'm only feeding myself tonight, even though this will make about 2 servings, for one person, you're going to want about a half cup of rice, give or take a little bit. I'm going to use a whole cup measure here. Just sort of estimate out right around half a cup, give or take, just somewhere in that range. If you're doing 2 people, then a cup will work for you. Pour that in the rice cooker there. And I'm going to put the rice away. Then, of course, you're going to take the rice cooker. You'll see there's little lines in there that tell you about how much water to put in. For a half cup of rice, I would fill it up almost to the 1 cup line. So I'll do that right now. Alright, so you can see it's right about at the 1 cup line, give or take. And go ahead and put that in there, but don't start the rice just yet. First thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to prep everything in your wok. So you're going to take the beef stock, going to open that up, and as for how much of the beef stock you want, well, basically you put it in until it looks about right. So I'm going to get this open here, pour it in. Basically you're going to want to just start to cover the meat a little bit. Like, somewhere around that much will work. Maybe a little more. That'll work right there. Alright, you can save the rest for later. I'm going to put that in the fridge in a minute. Next thing you want to do is make sure that you know where... here they are. You have measuring spoons. So your measuring spoons here. I'm going to do 1 teaspoon of salt. See the salt right here. Go. Let that get there. Going to spread it over a little bit there. You're also going to want a teaspoon of the sesame oil. So we'll go ahead and get that in there. Alright, now for the fun stuff. Stuff that really adds the flavor to it. You're going to pull out your tablespoon, and you're going to pull out your vinegar. And with this much sauce, I'd recommend 4 tablespoons of vinegar. 1. 2, there's 3, and there's 4. None of this is exact. You really do it based off of taste and scent, but this is a pretty good approximation of about how much I usually do. I'm going to pull out your soy sauce, and I'm going to do the same amount of soy sauce as you do vinegar, so there's 1, there's 2, there's 3, and there's 4 tablespoons of soy sauce. Set that over here. That's when you go ahead and put these in the sink to wash. Next up, you got to get the black pepper. Now, this is very, very subjective. I like mine a little bit spicier, so I'm going to put about that much in. Basically, do however much you think you can handle, and you can always add more, but remember, you can't really scoop it out. I'm going to pull a spatula over here, I'm going to get it mixed up. This is all before I have turned the stove on. So just going to mix it all up so that it all spreads out evenly. And now I'm going to go ahead and turn the stove onto high. And I'll be stirring this throughout. I'm going to go ahead and plug in and turn on your rice cooker. However you want to do the rice. When the rice is done, the adobo's done. So, we're going to let this go ahead and start cooking. And I will fast forward this a little bit so you don't have to sit here and, constantly just watch meat cook. Well, I mean, unless you're really into that sort of thing. But, I'm going to let this go for a little bit. And once you see the meat starting to cook over, once it started to brown a little bit, that's when you basically pull out a spoon and do a little taste test and see how it tastes to you. Whether, if it's... We'll get to that in a minute. It smells really good now. Alright. So you can see the meat has started to brown a little bit. So, now it's brown all over, rather. I'm going to go ahead and do a little taste test to see how it's coming along. Now, if you are tasting something out of a very hot pan, of course, remember, it will be hot. Okay, that's pretty good. Let's see. What you're looking for is a flavor that's pretty well balanced between sweet, salty, and tangy. And this has a little bit too much of the sweet, salty, so we're going to add a little bit more tang, a little bit more vinegar. It's going to give a little estimate there. It's really good. Stir it around a bit. Give it another taste. That about corrected it right there. I'm also noticing that it's not spicy enough, so I'm going to add a little bit more of the pepper. That'll give it its kick. Stir it a bit. Now you always want to keep an eye on the rice as well, because that's sort of your indicator if you're using a rice cooker. And take a little peek in there. It's coming along nicely. Basically, when you see the rice really starting to expand in there, that's when you're going to want to add in your onions. Now, this is going pretty strong right now. I'm going to go ahead and cut it back to around 6 on the stove. I don't know what settings your stove has, but if it's roiling a little bit too much, just go ahead and turn it back just a bit. Have the onions at the ready here. Looks like it's coming along rather nicely here. It smells fantastic. This is one of those dishes that it doesn't really look like much, but let me tell you, very, very flavorful. I'll let that go for a little bit longer. Keep an eye on the rice. And then about when it feels right, which I'm going to go ahead and do this a little bit earlier than later. Go ahead and take the onions and just sort of dump them in, spread them around, make sure none of them end up on the stove. And now you're going to just spread them out so that they're covered by the broth. Now if you do this and then taste the broth right after, you're going to notice an immediate change to the flavor. And It's actually extremely pleasant. And the reason why I use white onion rather than, say, Vidalia or sweet onion or something like that is the white onion has enough flavor on its own to really influence the flavor of the adobo. The others, the flavor just gets absorbed and then it's gone. So, with the white onion, it's going to really permeate the flavors. It's not going to taste like onion, but it's going to blend very, very nicely. Oh, wow, that's fantastic. Now, from this point on, it's a matter of waiting on the rice to be done and the onions to be caramelized. So you want these to be nice, soft, chewy onions. Well, not chewy, but very soft. Let that go for a while. And I'm going to let the rice cook. And I will be back in a few minutes here. And that is the sound we have been waiting for. That means the rice is done, the wonderful adobo is done, and all that's left is to serve it up. Alright. Always love that burst of steam. Now, you can of course serve it however you really like, but I always recommend putting the adobo in first. That way you can really gauge exactly how much you're getting, for one thing. That was exciting. That's usual serving right there. Maybe a tad more of the juice. Then you get your serving spoon for rice. If you're using a rice cooker, I recommend plastic. Just pile it on in. Go. Nice amount right there. Then mix and enjoy. This looks pretty good from where I'm sitting. Of course, and again, I've gotten all hungry waiting for it to finish cooking. If you've done it right, you should have just enough rice to absorb all of the sauce. And there we go. Steak adobo. Enjoy.